I witnessed, a few other community leaders witnessed a young man about 15 being attacked by an undercover police officer. There was a meeting about what was going on as far as police brutality and the young people in Park Heights. So the community meeting was really well attended by a community. They had the police chief and a few other people come out to talk, liaison representing the police chief, come out and talk about what was going on in the community. And the police made one point that stuck with me. And it was that they constantly came out because the large number of calls for stuff like loitering and like other very minimal, issues. They admitted that there were some bad apples, if you will, in the mix. And that left me wondering. So when the police respond, we never know if we're getting one of the good apples or one of the bad apples. But they're going to respond because they're called. And our young people have to play this lottery. They may get the police officer that can say, can talk to them like they're human and give them some advice, move on, A, B, C, D. Or they may get another police officer that may decide to drag them around the ground for 5 minutes. So I figured there has to be another way, right? And at the time, I could say I had a lot of frustration about how the police was dealing with the young people in the community. And so I began to talk to other community members about what are some possible solutions that come out of the community, that's born from the community, some community-oriented solutions. So I went to one of the local stores. Do you call the police regularly? And the owner told me, only every day. So I said, okay, so do you feel like your problems get resolved when you call the police? And they said no. Problem doesn't get resolved. It gets resolved for a small moment of time, but then what often happens is the children or whoever the police harass retaliates, not against the police, but against the owner or the person who called the police. So I said, okay, there has to be another way of doing it. So I said, okay, how about this? You call my cell phone before you call the police. Call me instead. And my phone was just flooded with phone calls, of 7-8 phone calls a day. I became more aware of the causes for it. Like there was clearly cultural differences, there were age differences, there were language barriers, so that the young people often felt disrespected by the way the owners addressed them, hey you, and other things that would kind of incite young people to respond negatively. I knew a lot of the young people. If I didn't know them, I knew their best friend or their cousin or their aunt or someone else. I always was able to address them in a respectful way that a lot of the merchants associated, a lot of people from the merchants were not able to because of the cultural barriers, if you will, and the language barriers. And so it always was a positive ending. And so we were able to get parents involved and have the parents talk to the store owners. We were able to, for me, personally explain why. And this might sound awkward, but with the young people, it seemed like we had a common enemy. And so they were able to realize some things had to change. So you could not harass the store owner because like you, I want the police having to respond to this kind of stuff as least as possible. And if you do this, this brings police here. We want to have less police and more people, community people. It's a point where they get mad at each other. Like if you do this, the police gonna get involved. And we don't want the police here, so let's do whatever we can do to keep the police as far away from this area as possible. And we built those kind of relationships to the point where I started thinking that something dramatic happened because I also spread it to other stores as well. But I stopped getting calls. Just one day I looked back and said, it must have been 2 weeks since I had a call. So I called the store owners like, hey, what's going on? They was like, we haven't had any problems. And that was 2 years ago. And to this, my number hasn't changed. Just hasn't been any problems. Like the young people started to learn how to respect the area. They found a common way to interact with each other that wasn't intimidating the store owners, or it wasn't about harassing anyone. And the store owners learned how to respect the young people in a way that they didn't feel like they had to retaliate. So it kind of created community, but it started with me, about 3-4 others, just be willing to give out cell phone numbers out instead of 911.